Now let's look at solving some expressions or simplifying some expressions that have rational, meaning fractional exponents. Well, notice we want to look at fractional exponents. Remember, again, that the denominator is the type of root, and the numerator here is the numerator here is m, is the regular exponent. And according to this, it doesn't matter which one you actually do first, the root or the exponent, but what we want to get used to doing is starting with the root first. Why do we want to start with the root first? Roots make your numbers smaller and more manageable first. So if we deal with the root first, we might be actually able to do all of our problems without calculators, or at least the majority of them. So let's do our root first, which means we'll be focusing on our root, which is our denominator first. Then we'll do the exponents at the end. So let's look at this first example. On the first example, we have 25 to the 3/2. Well, again, focusing on the type of root first, we see a 2 on the bottom, which means I have a square root of the 25 I would focus on first. Well, we already know that the square root of 25 is 5. Well, we're actually half done then. The last part says, okay, well, I can't forget that I had a 3 here. So I need to actually do that as a regular exponent because it was on top. So I need to take whatever I got out and I need to cube it. Well, 5 cubed is 125 because it's 5 times 5 times 5. And so that's it. The 2 on the bottom meant that we had to take the square root, which gave us a 5. The 3 on the top meant we just need to cube the 5 that we got, which gives us 125. Here's another one. For problem B, we're going to look at 27 to the 2/3. Again, we'll do the same thing. We'll start with the denominator here, which is going to tell us what kind of root we're going to start out with, which is telling us we're going to start out with a cube root of our 27 first. Well, we do know that the cube root of 27 is 3, but we can't ignore the top number, which is a 2, which means I need to just square everything or whatever I get at the end. So let's square whatever we get at the end. Well, we came up with 3, and 3 squared is 9. So our final answer here is 9. So again, the 3 on the bottom meant that we needed to take the cube root of the 27 first, which gave us 3. The 2 on the bottom meant we had to square it, which gave us the 3 squared, which is 9. Continuing right along, let's look at, for C, we have 100 to the 3/2. Again, starting with the bottom. Well, the bottom tells me we've got a 2, which means we've got to look at taking a square root of the 100 first. Well, the square root of 100 is 10. We just can't ignore the 3 on the top. What is the 3 on the top telling me we need to do? We need to cube whatever it is we just got out at the end. Well, that means we're going to cube 10, meaning a 10 times 10 times a third 10, which actually gives us 1,000 as our final answer. In D, notice we've got -16 to the 3/2. Notice the 2 on the bottom tells us we have a square root of what? Well, notice there are no parentheses, so the square root's only on the 16. Well, what is the square root of 16? It's just 4. Well, I can't forget to do the 3. which is going to tell me that I need to cube whatever I'm getting out. Well, if I cube whatever I'm getting out, that 4 cubed will be a 64. And I'm getting there. I'm almost done. There's only one part I'm kind of ignoring here, which is the negative. The negative was not inside of any parentheses, so the negative will go on at the end on the outside, which means my final answer is just a negative 64. In problem E, we want to look at this, doing this the same way. We'd start out with the denominator here, which is a 3, which would mean that we're looking at a cube root of whatever's inside the parentheses, and which in this case is a negative 64. So we'd start there. What's the cube root of negative 64? Well, that's a negative 4. We can't ignore the regular exponent. The regular exponent is a 2, which means we need to square whatever it is we're getting out. Notice we had parentheses before. We're still going to have parentheses around what we have. Well, remember, when we square a negative, it means a negative 4 times a negative 4, which actually is going to give me a positive 16. So that's our solution, positive 16. Let's look at F. In F, again, starting out with the denominator, tells me that we have a 2 on the bottom, tells me we have a square root. Because of the parentheses, it means that there's a negative 36 inside of the square root. Notice, this means we have a negative on the inside of an even root. Remember, as of right now, we don't have a way to do this, so we can stop here and say that the solution is going to be not a real solution or answer. We'll say not a real number. So we're careful not to say that there's no answer. We're just saying that it's not a real number. Now,